Hi, welcome to this week's session on personal resources, meaning in life, emotional intelligence, and empathy and compassion at work. It's lovely to see you again. So this is week 4 of the course. Hope everyone's finding it really interesting and getting a lot from it. So let's dive in. So this week, we're really going to look at how personal resources, well-being and resilience all come together. And these contribute to a fulfilling and effective life, both personally and professionally. And I'll just give you a brief overview. We're going to look at personal resources. What are personal resources and why do they matter for your well-being and resilience? A bit about meaning in life. How can you find your why, enrich your life and act as a personal resource? Emotional intelligence. So we've talked a little bit about it before, so we're touching it again about the 4 pillars of emotional intelligence: self-awareness, self-management, social awareness and relationship management, plus some strategies for enhancing emotional intelligence. We'll also look at empathy and compassion, understanding how these complex emotions and how they not only make us more human, but also serve as an invaluable personal resource. And then during all this, there'll be some steps for improving your personal resources, cultivating meaning in life and boosting emotional intelligence, empathy and compassion in the workplace. And finally, we'll look at how developing these resources can drastically improve your personal and professional life, which enhances your overall well-being and effectiveness. So let's embark on this journey of self-discovery and growth. So today we're exploring the concept of life significance and purpose, and this is guided by the wisdom of various notable individuals such as Viktor Frankl, who survived the Holocaust and contributed heavily to social psychotherapy. And there's a video about him talking about meaning in life in the lesson, if you want to find it. And then Philip Zimbardo, who's renowned for his work on social psychology and heroism. So the concepts evolved through history and span several disciplines, including philosophy and psychology. So by the end of this session, we aim to achieve 3 core objectives. And these are around understanding your life significance, defining it, engaging critically with models and measures of life significance, and understanding how to apply interventions related to life significance. So first of all, a little bit about the history. So there's a lot of philosophical perspectives on life significance, and these have evolved over time and across different cultures. Looking at 3 key areas, you've got supernaturalism, and going back to Thomas Aquinas, he believes that the significance of life is found through the relationship with the divine. This perspective tends to be theistic, so about God, and holds that ultimate meaning is derived from a higher power. We then have naturalism, and this comes from Aristotle, for example. His viewpoint focuses on ethics and morals. He believed that a meaningful life is about living well and fulfilling one's potential. And then we get to nihilism. So Kant, Camus, who's pictured here, and Nietzsche, for example. This is a belief that life lacks inherent meaning. And this view challenges traditional perspectives on life significance and contends that life is essentially absurd and meaningless. But then if we transition into psychology, this takes it from the meaning of life to the meaning in life. So this moves from a more general view by these philosophers, for example, which are often abstract ideas, to a much more individual personal experience. And this is something that helps with well-being. It's important in psychotherapy and clinical psychology So within this realm of psychology, the search for meaning or significance isn't just intellectual, it has a therapeutic value. And psychologists, especially clinical psychologists, often work with individuals to help them find or reclaim a sense of purpose, especially during times of crisis or suffering. So, looking at models of significance, the search for meaning is an age-old quest, and today we'll look at how modern psychology approaches this question. So today we'll traverse through the intellectual landscape of social and positive psychology, and these are not just theories, but guideposts to understand and enhance our daily lives. So first of all, we'll delve into the meaning maintenance model from social psychology. Then we'll look at models from positive psychology, and these will include work by Martella and Steger and Wong's Pure model. And then we'll discuss various interventions designed to foster a greater sense of life's meaning and significance. So the meaning maintenance model, this is often abbreviated to MMM, and it posits that humans have an inherent need to find and maintain meaning in their lives. And this search for meaning is far from trivial. It shapes our relationships, our choices, and even our well-being. So to better understand that, the MMM offers us 4 critical frameworks. So these frameworks are like pillars, holding up the structure of our understanding of the world and our place within it. When one pillar is threatened, we instinctively act to reinforce the others. So the key frameworks, one of them is self-esteem needs. So self-esteem isn't just vanity, it's about feeling competent and valuable in the eyes of the world and ourselves. And when our self-esteem is threatened, the MMM model suggests we might compensate by focusing on other areas where we can excel at or be valued. There's the next part of the framework is affiliation needs. So we're social creatures by nature. Our connections to family and friends and our community, really important when we're talking about libraries, are a key part of what gives our lives meaning. So according to MMN, when we feel isolated or disconnected, we may put more emphasis on other frameworks, such as enhancing our self-esteem or seeking certainty in coping mechanisms. So then we've got certainty needs, and humans generally don't like uncertainty. We want a world that is predictable and understandable. And when we face uncertainty, MMM suggests that we might seek solace in our relationships or engage in activities that boost our self-esteem, providing a sense of control. We also have something around symbolic mortality needs. So this framework is a bit more abstract. It encompasses our need for legacy and the desire to be part of something greater than ourselves. So when faced with existential threats or reminders of our mortality, we may seek comfort through our affiliations or by bolstering our self-esteem to make sure we feel like we've made a lasting impact. So in closing, the MMM shows us that our search for meaning is a complex interplay of various needs and aspirations. And while it's natural to feel imbalanced sometimes, the model provides insights into how we can restore equilibrium and find a renewed sense of meaning. And then coming on to these 2 models from positive psychology, so this transitions us from the general frameworks presented by the meaning and maintenance model into more nuanced contributions in positive psychology. This discipline offers various models designed to break down the often complex subjects of life's meaning into more tangible, actionable components. So in contrast to a one-size-fits-all approach, positive psychology models often adapt to individual perspectives, emphasising elements like coherence, purpose, and significance in various combinations. So Martella and Steger's model breaks down into 3 areas: coherence, purpose, and significance. So with coherence, this is about the narrative you have of your life. It's the story you tell yourself that makes all the disparate elements fit together. And coherence helps you make sense of the world. We then come on to purpose. So while coherence provides the why, purpose provides the what. It's the goals and objectives that drive you forward. Purpose is what gets you out of bed in the morning. And then there's significant, and this is the emotional layer, the so what of it all. It's about feeling that your life has a positive impact on others or the world. It's where subjective value and meaning come into play. And then we move on to Wong's pure model. So this again has purpose as part of it, understanding, responsibility and enjoyment. So much like Martella and Steger's model, Wong's pure model also highlights the importance of having a specific goal or aim in life. We also think about understanding. This is the aspect of self-awareness and the broader comprehension of your environment and your situation. And responsibility. Here, the focus is on owning your actions and decisions. Responsibility empowers you to be the author of your own life. Enjoyment, often overlooked. Enjoyment in the pure model is about relishing the journey. Not just the destination, but the journey. It serves as a reminder that meaning can also be found in simple pleasures. And as you can see, some of these connect well with the PERMA model we looked at in the wellbeing work. So it's worth noting that while these models provide structured frameworks, they're not mutually exclusive. You might find that elements from different models resonate more strongly with you at different times in various contexts. So whether you're more aligned with the structured components of Martella and Steger or find Wong's pure model to be more holistic, positive psychology gives us versatile tools to understand and cultivate a meaningful life. So navigating life's complexities often requires robust coping mechanisms. Positive psychology not only helps us understand that what gives us life meaning, but also offers actionable interventions for times when the meaning seems elusive. So we can look at Wong's ABCD framework, so the same man who did the pure framework. This includes accept. So first confront the reality of the situation, acknowledging its existence without judgment. Believe. So maintain faith in the inherent worthiness of life, even when facing difficulties. Commit. Dedicate yourself to meaningful goals and purposeful actions. Discover. Seek the meaning of the current situation and understand how it aligns with your self-concept. Evaluate. So continuously assess the situation with your responses, making adjustments as necessary. So Wong's ABCDE framework gives us a structured approach to coping with life's challenges while simultaneously nurturing our sense of meaning. There are other types of interventions. There's logotherapy. This was developed by Viktor Frankl and focuses on reorientating individuals towards a life of meaning. Narrative therapy. So these therapies use storytelling as a way to explore and enhance one's sense of self and meaning. And the Tree of Life intervention, which you can look up, is a good example of one of these. Life review therapy. This often involves reminiscing and analysing past experiences to improve your self-concept. Also something called the meaningful photography intervention. So this encourages capturing images of significant life aspects, and this is shown to boost life satisfaction and meaning. One way of doing this is take a photo every day for a week, share it and reflect on the photos, and that has been shown to boost life satisfaction. You can do it over a longer amount of time as well. These interventions remind us that the journey to find meaning is both multifaceted and deeply personal. So to sum up, the search for meaning is a fundamental aspect of human existence. Through various models and interventions in positive psychology, we can not only understand, but also enhance our sense of meaning and significance. So now we're just going to talk about positive traits and organisational features. We've touched on some of this before, but as the Dalai Lama suggests, virtuous qualities require cultivation and nurturing. So positive psychology, the field that we're looking at, which aligns very much with this philosophy, So just as a garden requires regular care and attention for flowers to bloom, human virtues and strengths need to be actively cultivated for optimal growth. So our exploration here is multifaceted. We'll start by delving into the concept of individual strengths. These are innate or nurtured qualities that make each of us unique. And this is revisiting some work we did earlier in the course. Next, we'll pivot our discussion towards the workplace, focusing on the significance of psychological capital. And this term refers to positive qualities that contribute to organisational success. And finally, we'll take a look at a unique strength-based approach to organisational change, which is known as appreciative inquiry. So our primary objective today is to expand our understanding of the role strengths play in our lives and our workplaces, and then we'll explore more about identifying and nurturing strengths can lead to increased well-being, better job performance and enhanced life satisfaction. And throughout this journey, we aim to equip you with the knowledge and tools to not only identify these strengths, but to actively cultivate them for your personal and professional advancement. So, one sec. The strengths perspective in positive psychology. So we looked at the values in action framework from Seligman back in module 2, I think, and that has 6 overarching virtues, which are featured on this slide. So Seligman is a key figure in positive psychology and emphasises a shift from focusing on weaknesses to strengths. And the values in action framework, it characterises 24 character strengths under 6 virtues: wisdom, justice, courage, temperance, humanity, and transcendence. And these strengths are building blocks of goodness that can be cultivated and nurtured. And they're not just fixed traits, but pathways to virtues. So various tools like the VIA, Character Strengths Assessment, and Clifton Strengths Finder and StrengthScope help individuals identify and leverage these strengths. So as we transition our focus to the workplace, it's crucial to introduce a cornerstone of positive organisational behaviour, psychological capital, or PsyCap for short. And this isn't merely a buzzword. Psychological capital is backed by a growing body of research and has tangible impacts on both individual employees and the organisation as a whole. So psychological capital is commonly broken down into 4 key components, conveniently summarised with the acronym HERO: hope, efficacy, resilience and optimism. So hope refers to the drive to achieve goals and find pathways to reach them. Efficacy is about the confidence to take on challenging tasks, and resilience indicates how well one can bounce back from adversity. And optimism involves making a positive attribution about succeeding both now and in the future. So in the workplace, you might wonder why soft skills or traits matter in a professional setting, but research shows that higher levels of psychological capital are linked to improved job performance, higher job satisfaction, and even a decrease in employee turnover. Moreover, these aren't static traits. They can be developed and nurtured through various interventions, training, and leadership styles. So organisations can actively invest in building PsyCap among employees. This could be through a leadership training programme that fosters these traits, or through employee wellness programmes that focus on resilience and hope. And remember, an investment in psychological capital isn't just an investment in the workforce, it's an investment in the organisation's success and longevity. So our final point here is about appreciative inquiry, commonly known as AI, but this isn't about machine learning or ChatGPT, it's about organisations evolving. It was originally conceptualised by Cooperrider and Srivastava. Appreciative inquiry shifts the focus from problem solving to strength-based exploration. Appreciative inquiry is about discovering what makes an organisation tick at its best. It's a participatory approach that engages members in asking questions that evoke positive potential. At the heart of AI is a structured framework. It's encapsulated in the 5D model, and this consists of definition, discovery, dream, design, and delivery. So definition targets the focus, like employee well-being. Discovery explores instances where the organisation excels. Dream envisions a future where these exceptional moments are commonplace, and design plans out how to make that dream a reality. And delivery is all about executing the plan. So there are 5 fundamental principles as featured on this slide: constructionist, simultaneity, poetic, anticipatory, and positive. The constructionist principle centres on our shared understanding. The simultaneity principle means inquiry itself triggers change. The poetic principle enables employees to shape the organisation's narrative. Anticipatory principle uses positive future visions to inspire actions. And positive principle amplifies the efficacy of the AI process through uplifting questions. So research on AI's effectiveness is expanding. It has found applications in sectors ranging from healthcare and education to community psychology. An appreciative inquiry offers an alternative route for organisational development, one that aligns perfectly with the strengths-based perspective of positive psychology. Okay, now we're revisiting emotional intelligence. Let's just take a moment to look at emotional intelligence and empathy. So why are we circling back to these topics? It's simple. They are central to crafting a meaningful life and are foundational elements of ethical practices, as even Aristotle noted many centuries ago. So what's changed since we last discussed emotional intelligence and empathy? Quite a bit, actually. These are not static, unchanging ideas. They evolve. New research comes in. Actually, I can't say that any new research come in the last fortnight, but they are always evolving, and new applications are discovered, and their influence isn't confined to personal well-being alone. Extends to leadership, community building, very relevant for us as librarians, and much more. So let's start by reminding ourselves that emotional intelligence isn't a one-size-fits-all model. We have the ability model by Mayer and Salovey, the trait model by Petrides, and the competency model popularised by Daniel Goleman. Each offers a unique lens through which to understand and apply emotional intelligence. Now, let's turn our attention to empathy. Often considered a cornerstone of emotional intelligence, empathy too is a complex construct with multiple definitions and components. Whether cognitive or affective, whether considered a trait or a state dependent, empathy is crucial in human interactions and fosters pro-social behaviour. But it's not all sunshine and rainbows. Both emotional intelligence and empathy have had their fair share of criticism. From ambiguous definitions to questions about empirical validity. However, the criticisms often serve as opportunities for further exploration and refinement. So to conclude, we're revisiting emotional intelligence and empathy, not merely for the sake of academic discussion, but to deepen our understanding. So there are key aspects for what makes life meaningful, and it's crucial that we continue to explore these and apply these concepts to our day-to-day lives. So I ask you to look back at the work we did previously, as well as thinking about it today. So now I'd like to talk about virtue that has been celebrated across cultures and throughout history: compassion. From ancient philosophers like Confucius, Buddha, and Lao Tzu, to major world religions, compassion has always been viewed as a cornerstone of human morality. Even modern thinkers like Schopenhauer argue that compassion serves as the bedrock of ethical behaviour. and that our moral duty is to minimise suffering wherever possible. So before diving into the psychological complexities, it's crucial to appreciate that compassion is not just a modern construct, it's an age-old virtue that continues to be relevant. So let's define this. So what does psychology say about compassion? Well, according to Gertz and colleagues, compassion is an emotional state that emerges when we witness the suffering of others, prompting us to act to alleviate it. But it's more than a fleeting emotion. It has trait-like qualities that remain consistent over time. As Feldman and Kuijken argue, I find, as they argue, so for me, I find Strauss et al. From 2016 give a really comprehensive definition that really resonates with me. They identify 5 elements of compassion: recognizing suffering in others, understanding the commonality of human suffering, feeling emotionally connected to the sufferer, tolerating uncomfortable feelings that may arise, and being motivated to act to help alleviate the suffering. And notice they don't differentiate between compassion for oneself and for others. This leads us well into the concept of self-compassion. So finally, let's explore why compassion matters and how we can cultivate it. From an evolutionary perspective, compassionate communities are more likely to thrive, as Darwin suggested. Contemporary research also shows that compassion positively impacts both physical and mental health, particularly in healthcare settings. There are several effective interventions for cultivating compassion. These include mindfulness-based practices, compassion-focused therapy, and even simple techniques like love and kindness meditation. And there's a link to that in the lesson. But don't forget the importance of self-compassion. It's not just about being compassionate towards others. It's equally crucial to be compassionate towards yourself. And it's not just a feel-good rhetoric. There's substantial research backing the benefits of self-compassion, from reducing anxiety and depression to improving emotional coping skills. So whether you're a caregiver in a hospital or in a library, or simply navigating the complexities of human relationships, compassion is not just beneficial, it's essential. So lastly, but certainly not least, let's discuss the tangible benefits of investing in your personal resources. This is where theory meets practice, where we see the real world impact of our efforts to enhance well-being and resilience. So in your personal life, increased well-being gives you a heightened sense of meaning and emotional intelligence. Empathy and compassion contributes to holistic well-being. Also greater resilience. It's better equipped to handle life's up and downs, making you more adaptable and less prone to stress. In your professional life, you get improved productivity, you understand yourself and others, which leads to more effective communication and teamwork. It can help your career enhancement. Employers value individuals who possess high emotional intelligence and strong interpersonal skills, making you more likely to advance in your career. And one of my goals is making the library world reflect this, that we can help people of all levels understand the importance of this, because I do think some areas there can be a bit of blocker. And well done you for all being here and doing that. Overall effectiveness, so it can make better decision making. Emotional intelligence fosters better self-awareness and self-management, and this is crucial for making balanced decisions. It can also enhance your relationships. So empathy and compassion make for more enriching and meaningful relationships, whether it's in the workplace or at home. So as you can see, the ripple effect of enhancing your personal resources is profound, affecting not just your inner world, but also how you interact with the world around you. And finally, your assignment for this week is about building personal resources. So by the end of this assignment, you'll have practical strategies and tangible outcomes to enhance your personal resources. So this will include meaning in life, emotional intelligence, empathy and compassion in the workplace. And yeah, I I'm looking forward to reading them. I've loved reading everybody's take on each assignment, and well done all of you for doing so well. Anyway, thank you very much for your time, and I look forward to seeing what comes up now. So in the meantime, take care and stay kind.